Yo, Drew. Yeah, can I come in? Come in. Yo, dude. You working on another one of those videos?
No, I'm just playing, man. That's cool.
Yo guys, what's up? It's Drew. Today, I actually have a short story for you. I was hesitant at first to put it out there, but after giving it some thought, I decided to. The story is actually a part of my story. From the football fields across Pennsylvania to the mountains of Colorado, I've been on a journey that's taken me from the adrenaline of the football field to the peace I found snowboarding. Growing up, I was always hyperactive, constantly playing something. From an early age, I realized how much I loved competition and pushing myself to be the best. Besides my friends and family, honestly, sports is what fueled me in life. Football was my #1 passion, then basketball and baseball. But football was my favorite escape, and I thrived on the rush of game days. Don't get me wrong, I didn't mind practice, but you live for the game days. My freshman year of high school had started on a high point. Life was good, and it was football season. During the game against Marple High School, I had scored 2 touchdowns and we were up 14-12. And there wasn't much time left, so they had just scored. We were expecting an onside kick, so we lined up an onside kick return. I was back deep just in case, and they ended up not doing an onside kick. They squibbed it deep. I started my return. I was running and like 5 or 6 guys just closed in on me. At the time, it really didn't hurt that bad on contact, but when I tried to get up and put weight on it, I felt like this stinging feeling all the way up my leg. And I had to get helped off the field. You know, we won the game, which was nice, but I ended up in the hospital. And at the hospital, I saw a doctor. He told me to rest and I'd be out for 2 to 4 weeks, and he wrote me a script for painkillers. At first, I was cautious, even nervous, honestly, to take them because I had heard some things about them. But after taking one and waiting about 20 minutes, it felt really good. Definitely better than I expected. What started as pain relief quickly became something else. I noticed that it made a lot of things better. Sitting in class was better. Anything that seemed boring wasn't that bad anymore. I got a false sense of strength. Even though I had a previous injury months before, I had one of my best games ever on painkillers during the championship game for Rose Tree. Oddly enough, it was on the same exact field. Although I didn't know it at the time, it was what opened the gates to addiction for me. Eventually, I got another refill of the scripts after my first one. They would eventually run out, and I'd find another avenue to get them. I'd later get arrested and kicked out of school. Football, family, and friends always kept me grounded for a while, but that feeling from those pills lingered in the back of my mind. I had 2 more bouts with painkillers, occasionally during my senior year of high school and going into my freshman year of college, and also throughout my senior year of college. I managed to perform really well my sophomore and junior years, and those years were really fun. My sophomore year, we went to the Final Four. Those are still some of the best memories that I honestly have in my life.
Again, Westchester on this opening drive, shutting down the fullback, and that opened it up for the quarterback.
It's just so hard to prepare for this offense.
Some wide throw when you have holes like this. Former midshipman up to the 23-yard line.
My junior year, we went to the 2nd round of the playoffs. That was a good season too. But painkillers would give me that false sense again, as I took them before one of our playoff games and played really well that game. My senior year was a pretty good year. We won the PSAC. We split it with 2 other teams though, so I definitely wasn't the best version of myself. A back injury and other struggles held me back. And I would regret this for a little while, but it's tough because I did have a back injury. Throughout high school and college too, I would drink on the weekends, and I didn't really consider it to be a problem just yet. When football ended, I felt somewhat lost because it had been such a big part of my identity at the time. After college, I was stuck in a cycle, sometimes staying sober, other times falling back into drinking and addiction. I moved to the city. I was working weekdays and partying every weekend. And then eventually, using daily became my norm. At one point, I fully accepted that this was my life. I became immersed in the lifestyle without much guilt or shame, even though I knew deep down it was wearing me down. Yo, bro. I'll see you soon. I was still working out, running, and playing basketball, and I was losing a lot of weight because of this. And honestly, like, people started noticing this and asking if I was all right. And at first I was like, yeah, I'm doing just fine, you know, doing my thing. But after a while, it was like, I started to be honest with some people and say like, I'm all right, but I'm not at the same time, you know? Definitely not my best self. Eventually I had enough, and I felt I had to make some choices, either figure out a way to keep it going or get out. I made the decision to move back home, save some money, and figure out my next steps. That's when snowboarding, something I'd loved as a kid, called to me again. I realized I wasn't living the life I wanted, and I knew I had to make a change. Snowboarding growing up, I used to go every other weekend. You know, as you get older, sports become a bigger part of your life, and for me, that was football. It was harder to keep going every other weekend consistently, so I still went occasionally, but not as much as I'd like to. It came back to my life during a time when I really needed something, honestly. Snowboarding became my new escape. Weekends on the slopes replaced partying, and during that time at home, I did a lot of reflection and thinking. I read books that helped me figure out what I needed in life. Eventually, I felt I knew what was best for me, and I decided to relocate out to Colorado. And this was a really big move for me because I had been in Pennsylvania my whole life. I felt like essentially I was leaving my whole world behind to come out here and try to make a new life for myself. I felt like I needed that big of a change because I tried it, you know, 3 other times before and it didn't work, so this time I was trying to move across the country. At the time that I got to Colorado, I wasn't fully clear-headed, and I was aware of that, so I went out to California to get help at a treatment center, and this would be the 4th time that I've stayed at one of these places. But this time was different because I stayed a whole 3 months instead of just, you know, a 30-day deal. Really wanted to commit and try to change.
Just because you're not where you want to be right now doesn't mean you can't get to where you want to go to. It's an everyday thing. This is my meditation right here. It's good to be sober. You might miss out on high highs, real fun times, but hey, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. Feeling super grateful right now. I think everyone should just do what they're excited about.
And those 3 months were great for me, and I felt like I was finally getting back on track a little bit. I returned to Colorado and I started to enjoy life again.
Man, it's a beautiful place. Grateful to be here for sure.
My friend John actually came out and stayed with me for a few months with my stepdad Rob and me. And that was a great time. You know, we golfed and skied and we became friends through football.
Yeah, you're gonna have a good shot. Thanks, man. I need that.
Get it closer than mine, dude.
Low key, not at all.
Yeah, man, get it closer.
Played against him in high school, and then we ended up playing together in college. He would eventually leave, and then I was kind of, for the first time, by myself in Colorado and trying to figure it out. At this time too, I still wasn't fully ready to give it all up. I had months where I tried to manage my drinking, but I knew it was a risky game to play. I wasn't the best version of myself yet. Drinking was a risky game because that's not really what I was looking for, and you know, after 1 or 2, I'd be thinking of another way to make it better. What else can I get? After 2 years in Colorado, I finally stopped drinking, partying, and using pills. On the slopes, I found the peace that had eluded me for so long. Snowboarding brought me joy, and filming became a passion. This journey has taught me about perseverance and the beauty of redemption. I love football because before and during a game, I was just in my own world, and I get a similar feeling when I'm snowboarding. And that's why I like snowboarding so much, I feel like. Starting coast to coast wasn't just about snowboarding. It was about the journey. In my experience with addiction, it comes down to liking that escape more than the life you have. That might not be true 100% of the time, because after you start using for a while, you kind of need it to function. But in general, like, I'm the first one to tell you, I love using the drugs that I use. That's why I used them at the time. I wanted to share my story because there's still people out there struggling, and maybe this video can give them some hope or inspiration. And I want to put it out there too to kind of squash a lot of the misconceptions that are out there about addiction. Self-reflection and being honest with myself about what was best for me were the two biggest keys for me. I knew what I was doing was destructive, but I loved it at the time. It's when the negatives start to outweigh the positives, and that escape essentially stops working. And then you hit rock bottom. That's when I realized I really wasn't the best version of myself, and I was no longer cool with that. Now, I'm 2 years sober. I have a beautiful fiance, cat, home, and in general, I'm happy again, which is really nice. I also have a clear sense of who I am, and I strive to live in a way that aligns with my true self. But I wanted to do more, which is why I started to create other content. This first video is my story, but in the next few, I'll dive deeper into specific topics and eventually start creating documentaries about other people's stories too, hopefully. Snowboarding is still my biggest passion, but I've also learned to appreciate the simple things in life. I hope that through my story, I can help just one person realize that it's never too late to turn things around. I also don't regret my journey because it brought me to right here where I am today. The only regret that I do have is the pain that I caused my loved ones and the relationships that I've ruined along the way. If you're still in the lifestyle in any kind of way, trust me, I don't judge because I understand it. And I try never to judge because you never know what it's like in someone else's position. And just because I got sober doesn't mean that I think everyone else should be sober. Everyone has a unique experience with alcohol and substances, but I will say if alcohol or drugs are negatively impacting your life, then I definitely recommend it. Even though I am proud of myself for overcoming these struggles, I don't think it defines who I am, and I wouldn't say it's the most interesting thing about me. It's just a part of my story. I read something that was a poem about being an opiate, and it really hit home because it's like the devil in a way. It makes it seem like it won't destroy you and it makes everything better, but it's exactly what it'll do to some people. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.